I am an American soldier.
I'm a warrior and a member of a team.
I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values.
I will always place mission first.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never quit.
I will never leave a fallen comrade.
I am disciplined.
I am disciplined. Physically and mentally tough.
Trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills.
I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself.
I am an expert and I am a professional.
I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the
enemies of the United States of America in close combat.
I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
There's strong, and there's Army Strong. See what it takes at GoArmy.com.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at rahardin.com. That's the World Wide Web at rahardin.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate Formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for point of view.
All right, how y'all doing out there tonight? Now, first off, I'm going to apologize. No, I didn't do a live show last night.
And a couple people pinged me on social media after the fact, going, why? Well, be honest, I always like to have source audio for you, not other people's take on things, but I like to bring you the actual wording and the actual things that were said at press conferences and things like that. There wasn't enough audio for me to do a show. Since the peaceful transition of power, there hadn't been a Defense Department, a State Department, or any other relevant press briefings I could use. Now, the White House had hosted a couple, but most of that didn't relate to what I was looking for. So I decided, after scouring the web, looking for good audio to bring you in addition to my voice, there wasn't enough to do a show. So rather than try and drag through one, I decided I would go with the simpler option of, nope, not gonna happen. Now, I do have a couple audio clips for you today, and I've got one. We're gonna start off with something I just found hilarious. No rhyme or reason to it. I just found it absolutely hilarious. And it was when the Major General giving the briefing today was introduced at the press conference at the Pentagon. It was all I could do to keep from laughing. Listen to this title.
This morning, it's my pleasure to introduce Major General Joe Martin. He's the CGIFLC, which is the Commanding General of the Combined Joint Forces Land Component Command for Operation Inherent Resolve. He's also the commander of the 1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley, Kansas, better known to many of you as the Big Red One.
Okay, let me play just part of that again.
This morning, it's my pleasure to introduce Major General Joe Martin. He's the CGIFLC, which is...
He's the CGIFLC. Okay, I know U.S. military runs on acronyms. Boy, do they ever. But CGIFLC? Come on, guys. Come on. That's a new twist on an old problem. And boy, does it make me cringe. Oh yeah, it makes me cringe a whole lot. So now, after the humor is over, I do have how the Major General introduced himself.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for listening today. I'm Joe Martin, the commander of the Combined Joint Forces Land Component Command, which includes all the coalition ground forces in Iraq, and I also command the 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red One, out of Fort Riley, Kansas.
Much better intro. Much better. He avoided the CGIFLC. I'm sorry. DOD, don't use CGIFLC again. Just skip the acronym. I was seeing snickers and comments about CGIFLC. Guys, people are already sometimes laughing at the acronyms. Let's not add to it. And moving right along, here's some of what he had to say. No, I don't just have the intros for you. I've got actual content.
Last night, after more than 100 days of tough urban combat, the government of Iraq and the Iraqi security forces announced the liberation of eastern Mosul. While clearance operations will continue, the Iraqi security forces control all areas inside of the city east of the Tigris River. This is a monumental achievement for the Iraqi security forces, and one that would have been a difficult task for any army in the world. There's still a difficult fight ahead in western Mosul, but the ISF has proven that they are both a professional and formidable fighting force.
Okay, so East Mosul is cleared. Now, that wasn't the only point the general went on to make, but that was the one I thought I'd start with, since that's where he started.
Mosul's about 145 square kilometers. It's got a population of 1.2 million people. It has over 200,000 structures and almost 3,000 kilometers of road to clear. The Mosul offensive is some of the hardest door-to-door fighting the world has seen in recent history.
Okay, that is a lot of space. I mean, he goes on to compare the city to Mosul to a city the size of Philadelphia. Let's tune back in.
While I'm not going to go into specifics or predict how the Iraqis will take on western Mosul, what I'll tell you is that it will be challenging. Daesh has had over 2 years to fortify its defensive positions and prepare its supplies for that defense. Under these conditions, the government of Iraq and the Iraqi security forces are taking exceptionally great care to protect the lives of the thousands of civilians who remain in Mosul. Their safety is a primary consideration in the ISF's ongoing effort to defeat Daesh and liberate Mosul.
Okay, so protection of civilians is a key component. And I think that makes everyone pretty happy to hear. I know it makes this show host happy to hear. Because while I'm very much anti-Daesh, the civilians have suffered enough. They've had to put up with 2 years of Daesh control, ruining their lives and taking their property and all other manner of destruction. And I don't think that's right. Now, let me see if I can find where he comments on the library.
With that in mind, coalition forces are not here to fight for the Iraqis, but rather enable their success. We are, however, prepared to defend ourselves if necessary.
All right, that's good. A second, I'm looking for the one where he mentions the library. I don't have it as prepped as I'd like, because I was a little busy with something else today. What? Oh, you just never mind.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, but what I tell you is that we have seen an increase in the tempo, and it began on the 29th of December when the Iraqi security forces began conducting operations after they did, in essence, a refit and a reorganization after 60 days of tough fighting. The combination of their ground maneuver...
Okay, I'm still looking for the library comment. Bear with me.
So you were saying you haven't been given any new direction from Washington on the U.S. role there in Iraq. But do you, as a commander, do you see ways that would be fruitfully exploited in which U.S. forces could operate further forward or take a bigger role on the ground or in the air?
Bob, our role is exactly where it needs to be right now, and that's beside the Iraqis, advising, assisting, and enabling and training them. And it has worked. Let
me back up a little bit and get what he says about changes since the inauguration. I think I've got it right here.
Created a condition where the enemy, in essence, a refit and a reorganization.
I can't find it, but he said a lot of interesting things. And let me see if this comment is the library one I'm looking for.
Well, what I would tell you is anybody who operates within the country of Iraq should.
Hang on.
I'm gonna tell you a story to help give you a sense of exactly what they're doing. Principally, they're with brigade and division level commanders, and so imagine a coalition force advisor and his equipment and his team in the same vicinity of an Iraqi brigade commander or division commander. As they're together, they're fusing and sharing intelligence. They're together, they're fusing and sharing a common operating picture, understanding exactly where the Iraqis are. And together, with the Iraqis' approval, they're striking targets in a much more effective and quick fashion in executing those targets. And so they're side by side, they're building relationships, they're getting...
He talks about how the U.S. forces are actually engaged in the fight and where they're actually stationed. I'm looking for the library comment. All right, well, I'll look for it during break. Moving right along, we do have some other interesting stories of note. You know me, I scour the web and bring you what I think is interesting. Of course, I've got my show prep. And just as a reminder, as is my custom on Wednesday nights, this show will be slightly abbreviated. Not hugely, but slightly. All right. Kuwait hangs 7 convicts, including a prince. Now, this story probably wouldn't have made news except for the fact that a prince was hanged. But we're going to go into a little bit of it. 5 of the prisoners were foreigners, 1 from each Bangladesh, Ethiopia, Philippines, and 2 from Egypt. The prince who was executed was Faisal Abdul al-Jabbar al-Sabah, a captain in the Kuwaiti army. He was convicted of premeditated murder and illegal possession of a firearm. The murder victim was the prince's nephew. The motive for killing was unclear, though Kuwaiti authorities concluded it was not political. What makes this noteworthy? Okay, other than the fact that somebody in a royal family was executed, it appeared to be the first time since Kuwait gained independence in 1961 that a member of the royal family was executed. The head of the royal family, the emir, has the power to pardon the prince. The fact that he let the death sentence stand is being seen as a signal that all Kuwaitis are accountable before the law, even the highborn. In other words, unlike some things we've seen where certain people in this country seem to get away with things, in Kuwait, they're all equal. Now, of course, Saudi Arabia had taken a similar step last year, executing a prince who was found guilty of shooting a man to death after a brawl. The other Kuwaiti citizen executed on Wednesday was Nusra al-Enzi, a woman convicted of murder after setting fire to a tent at her husband's wedding, apparently in revenge for his taking a second wife. Fire killed at least 50 people, including women and children. Human rights groups, of course, condemned the executions, which were the first in Kuwait in more than 3 years and reflect a wider return to the death penalty in the region. What can I say? That region is known for the death penalty. So please, 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 if you do venture to the Middle East, please be aware of the laws and make sure you're not breaking them, because I don't want to read your name out. Please? Moving right along. And I was surprised to find out that they weren't being included. But they're not. The Ukrainians are demanding a say in any Russian-U.S. talks to end conflict on its territory. Alright, why isn't Ukraine included? I wasn't able to ferret out. But Ukraine has up to this point not been included, which I found rather disturbing and fascinating at the same time. Ukraine, which has been battling pro-Russian separatists in its eastern Donbass region for nearly 3 years, is worried that U.S. President Donald Trump will cut Kiev out of any peace negotiations as he attempts to improve ties with Moscow. Because we're talking the future of our country, we don't want to be excluded from the negotiations. And that's a quote from Foreign Minister Olena Zerkal. We don't want to be a card to be played. We want to be an actor. And Zerkal said she doesn't believe in gentlemen's agreements anymore, noting that Russia has violated an earlier deal, the 1994 Budapest Memorandum on Security Assurances, under which Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan gave up nuclear weapons in exchange for assurances of territorial integrity. And of course, then Russia comes along and annexes Crimea. Zirkle reiterated Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko's call for the West to maintain sanctions imposed against Russia over the 2014 annexation of Crimea and its support for the separatists in the Donbass region. So, who knows? Another setback for Ukraine, the frontrunner in France's presidential election, Francois Fillon, said during a visit to Berlin on Monday that sanctions against Russia were totally ineffective and suggested they could be lifted. And President Trump, who took office on January 20th, has suggested he might do away with some sanctions if Russia helps battling terrorists and achieving other goals important to Washington. All right, folks, what this does, at least in your host's opinion, Trump is trying to play the end against the middle. He is attempting to get many things done quickly. And in his expediency, I'm hoping he doesn't steamroll the people of the Ukraine. Excuse me. All right, we're going to listen to a little more of the Operation Inherent Resolve audio while I get my nose under control.
I can't specifically comment as to the activity.
Okay, that was about cyber activity. I'm looking for the library story because that was just great. I know I said try and find it during break, but
what I would tell you is anybody who operates within the country of Iraq.
Nope, that wasn't it either. Let's check this one.
I'm gonna tell you a story to help you give you a sense of exactly what they're doing.
Nope, that was where the U.S. troops are located. Sorry I don't have this well prepped. I had some things that took me away from my usual prep work earlier today.
My partner that I work with each and every day has placed a premium on the hold force, and they're in the process of transitioning from clearance operations into hold force. And so, just to give you a picture of this, they've cleared the east side, a little over 100,000 buildings. If you think 6 rooms in each building, that's a goal. That's a Herculean task. And so, what they're doing now is they're going back through and they're ensuring that everything is clear and turning it over to hold forces. And it's a process that'll take a little bit of time, but transitioning to that hold force is a very high priority for my security partner in the Iraqi security forces.
All right, so Iraq is planning on working with using hold forces to keep Mosul from falling back into the hands of Daesh. And as you know, we use Daesh on this show. And just as a reminder, we use Daesh because it's an acronym that the Islamic State, or ISIL, or ISIS, hates. They prefer you to call them Islamic State or the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant or whatever they want. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. And I have no reason to start now. Moving right along. Well, similar content actually. Daesh fighters redeploy in West Mosul after Iraqi forces take the east. The tallest building is 7 stories, one resident said, asking not to be identified as militants execute those caught speaking with the outside world. Some 750,000 people live in western Mosul, according to the United Nations. It took 100,000 Iraqi troops and members of the regional Kurdish security forces and Shiite Muslim paramilitaries backed by the air and ground support from the U.S. coalition, almost 100 days to retake eastern Mosul. Taking the west side, the location of Mosul's Grand Mosque, where Daesh leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi declared a caliphate, could prove even tougher. Why? It is crisscrossed by streets too narrow for armored vehicles. The Sunni Muslim jihadists are expected to put up a fierce fight as they're cornered in a shrinking area, but the narrow streets could also deprive them of one of their most effective weapons, suicide car bombs. Now, let me get the audio queued up on that. I've got some really cool audio. Let me just find it. From a drone strike operator. I believe this is it. Let me just double check.
I am a MQ-1B Predator pilot.
Yes.
Our main mission is persistent, dominant attack and reconnaissance for our U.S. forces as well as our coalition partners. Most days start out the same. We show up on base and we get where our mission is going to be for that day. This day started out just like that, and we didn't expect anything to be different as we're walking through the door. So when we first got in the seat, we had checked in with our coalition forces on the ground. We got an update of where they were to keep them safe. That's our primary focus. And then what they were looking for that day. We then started scanning around, gathering intelligence of the local area. That's when we noticed a vehicle out of the corner of the screen that was moving towards the friendly force location. This was not normal of an action for the town. So we relayed to the friendly forces that this was coming towards them. When we zoomed in...
Okay, so this guy is a Predator drone pilot. He is going about his everyday routine. And here's how the rest of that plays out.
We noticed features that distinguished it from a normal vehicle, such as armor plating, such as the tires and wheels being blocked off in the windshield, so that bullets from rifles couldn't penetrate it. This is an indication for us of a V-bed or a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device. So we relayed this to friendlies so they could try to take as much action as possible.
Stand by for friendlies, but there'll be no mark. Stand by for friendlies. Egress overhead.
However, based on the speed that we saw them, we knew they may only have a few minutes until this Mad Max vehicle, as we called it, actually reached them.
9,588 feet. Label this Mad Max.
And that's when we had to take the actions that we did.
Ready when you are. Ready? It's a vehicle, just shoot it.
The 1 minute was the planning, and then actually a 30-second time of flight, and all in all it only took about 2 minutes or 2 minutes and 20 seconds. A Hellfire explosion on our camera, you can see a small explosion, only a few meters, a few feet.
Now the Hellfire explosion he's discussing is a regular one. Listen to what he saw after taking out this Mad Max vehicle.
Washed out on the screen. However, on this explosion, we had to zoom out multiple levels back and back to even see it. Looking at it afterwards, it was approximately 400 meters, about 4 football fields wide of an explosion, which is abnormal for a Hellfire. So we knew right then, we had verification that this was indeed a car bomb.
Rifle, 5 seconds, splash.
Yes, he saved the lives of not only U.S. forces, but our coalition forces and potentially Iraqi civilians with his actions as a drone pilot. All right, folks, we have reached the end of the first half of my show, and I will see you on the other side for a brief wrap-up, because as you know on Wednesdays, I cut it short and sweet because I got stuff to do on Wednesdays, which is namely producing Constitution and Culture.
Say
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from the critique of the short story through to line edits on full-length novels. We also offer assistance on generating writers' bios for your websites. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call, but I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a 4-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-757-2782. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-757-2782. That's 877-757-2782.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
All right. Thank you for hanging in there with me over that commercial break. All right. Moving right along. We have some North Korea stories. What would a show around here be without North Korea? Come on. What would it be? It wouldn't be one of my shows. Now would it? I don't think so. So, what do we have? Well, if you want to see what a speculative commodity bubble looks like, oh yeah, coking coal. And coking coal is largely produced by none other than North Korea. Yes, our friends, North Korea. And that is the biggest thing that they export. Yes, coking coal is the biggest export other than chaos. So, what can I say? North Korea just exports more and more chaos all the time. But Chinese coking coal futures have dropped. And if you remember, the UN put a limit on how much coking coal North Korea can export. Oh, yes, it did. Now, the question is China going to live up to those limits? Well, who knows? Because its coking coal exports have been on the rise. Now, just the fact that China has been importing more coking coal doesn't mean others aren't benefiting. So China gets its extra coking coal from Mongolia and Australia, in addition to North Korea. Yes, North Korea. It's classified as anthracite by customs, but North Korean supplies are largely used as coking coal in steelmaking or as high-quality fuel in other manufacturing, such as ceramics. Alright, I've got time for just a couple more stories because I got to get on out of here. I'm going to start with a story that provoked outrage and infuriated me. And I have great respect for the men and women of law enforcement and what they do every day for us. So for me to hear that a federal law enforcement official, and by the way, the Hatch Act prohibits federal employees, and this includes members of the military, from getting involved in politics. You're not supposed to state your opinion. Well, this one Secret Service agent violated that. A longtime U.S. Secret Service member wrote in a Facebook post she would not take a bullet for President Trump. And this was in open defiance of the Hatch Act, which forbids Secret Service agents and other federal employees from making partisan statements on social media. Harry O'Grady wrote the post shortly before the election in support of Hillary Clinton. And she said, as a public servant for nearly 23 years, I struggle not to violate the Hatch Act, so I keep quiet and skirt the median. To do otherwise can be a criminal offense for those in my position. Despite the fact that I am expected to take a bullet for both sides, but this world has changed, and I have changed. Okay, so let's see what else she had to say. And I would take jail time over a bullet or an endorsement for what I believe to be a disaster to this country and the strong, amazing women and minorities who reside here. Hatch Act B. Bleep. I'm with her. Now, she did delete the post several days later. However, one complaint had already been filed with her superiors. She has also recently changed her Facebook cover photo to images of the Women's March in Denver, writing, "All of these women represent me, proud to say it, #nasty." Now, those images were also removed following an interview she gave with the Washington Examiner. Excuse me, you are a federal employee. You serve this country. And yes, I respect your right to freedom of speech. However, you also are to abide by the Hatch Act. And you clearly decided on your own you didn't want to be part of it. All right, I've got one more story I'm going to share real quick. Waitress was surprised with a generous tip and message of unity after the inauguration. After scrambling to serve an unusually large crowd over the weekend as thousands flooded Washington, D.C. for President Trump's inauguration and the Women's March on Washington, Rosalind Harris was ready to return to business as usual on Monday. Harris is a waitress at Washington's Busboys and Poets. She expected to get a few stragglers from the weekend. Sure enough, she got them. She spotted a group of 3 men walking into the restaurant together. She could make some assumptions. They had on cowboy hats, so she could tell they were from the South. The 3 men turned out to be Republicans from West Texas who were in town for the inauguration. They smiled as they took a seat at an empty table. Harris handed them each a menu, flashed the smile right back. At that point, Harris had no idea within the span of an hour one of those customers would give her the surprise of a lifetime. Now I'm going to read you the note that they left on the check. Okay? And then we're going to go from there. We may come from different cultures and may disagree on certain issues, but if everyone would share their smile and kindness like your beautiful smile, our country will come together as one people. Not race, not gender, just Americans. And what makes this story so notable, they left her a tip. Now their bill was approximately $72.60. So how much of a tip would you leave? 10, 20, 30 bucks? They left her a $450 tip. No, I'm not joking. They left her a $450 tip. The generous tipper was 37-year-old Jason White, who said he didn't even tell his friends about the kind act. His only concern at the time, spreading a message of unity. Jason White, you got the right idea. All right, folks. On that note, because I got to get ready to produce Constitution and Culture, I'm out of here!